Hello and good afternoon and welcome to today's News on the Block Knowledge Bank, top tips for effective property management or a day in the life of a property manager. We are delighted to welcome Managing Director of Evolve Block and Estate Management, Benjamin Hume, to be our speaker today. Benjamin has worked in residential property management for over 10 years and he manages 60 blocks and estates, with some of their biggest estates consisting of over 100 units. So I think that puts him in a great position to take this session today. Benjamin's going to take questions at the end. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom. And when we get to the end, we will get all your questions answered. So I'm going to hand straight over to Benjamin for the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you, Charlotte, for that lovely introduction. Yes, you know, I've got a particularly large firm now that I'm at the helm for, and the purpose of today is to try and give you all some hints and tips on things to avoid, situations that can crop up that can easily have been prevented, and how to manage your day without tripping up and catching yourself unawares as a property manager. These tips are designed not just for experienced property managers, but for those that have been in the industry a year or two. And I will say that most of the stuff in here over my career, I have made these exact mistakes. So don't panic if you go, oh my God, hang on, I've made these mistakes. It's not a problem. We all have to learn somewhere. So it's absolutely fine. So let me just load this up for you now. And there we go. Well, those that might know me probably think that picture makes me look really young, and that's before I had any grey hair, so that's why I like to keep it up there, just remind me. Yeah, top tips for effective property management. I'm not going to teach everyone to suck eggs. This isn't a technical update. This is how you can better manage your day, and this is how you can look to avoid the most common problems that you find. So we're going to cover navigating your day 9 to 5, successful email management, client relationships, portfolio management, proactive planning, and daily finances. These are the main areas that I've personally spent many years overcoming, and I've got some really good tried and tested ways to avoid any problems as a result of successful management of these. And the goal is to help you stay ahead as a property manager, especially with the legislative environment changing dramatically, and demands will inevitably be increasing on all of us. Typical property manager has to deal with an extremely varied day, from routine maintenance, insurance, claims, debt chasing. Honestly, I give up with the stuff that comes into my email box on a 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, all sorts of stuff. You know, the other day I came in and I was a counsellor for the first hour, trying to deal with someone having a bit of a breakdown over service charges and trying to help them through it. So you never quite know what's going to come in. So it's important that we have an element of discipline as we progress through our day. From personal experience, navigating all of this whilst trying to manage your portfolio and team, that's where the stress rears its ugly head. Whether you're a company of a couple of property managers or whether you've got tens of property managers, the stress is always there. And being a jack of all trades does mean that you have this, you're trying to stay focused, I think is probably the best word. It's very, very difficult. Navigating your day 9 to 5. What are you looking to achieve today? It's really important that you give yourself some goals. It's really important that you have something to achieve before you go home that day, because it gives you some focus. It gives you something that you can work on that is achievable. Don't you know, like, I'm going to retender my entire portfolio. No, just something that you are going to achieve by the end of the end of the week as well. Make sure you've got something that keeps you focused throughout the week. So I was going to retender the cleaning at this site. Make sure that's done. Make sure you've got that, because that's really good to drag you back in. Reactive issues and reports. Again, you've got no control over what's going to happen at your site, but it's just making sure that you deal with those issues, you deal with those reports in a timely manner, and they are factored in just wherever your portfolio sits. That's a priority there. I'll deal with that. If it doesn't need to be done there and then, you've got more important things to do, you need to just park that somewhere and make a note of that and come back to it. proactive issues and works, there's always going to be an element of proactive work in your portfolio. It's not always a case of you deal with a phone call, you deal with an email, you deal with someone coming to the office. You've got to find that time to deal with the proactive side of things. Phone calls. We don't work in a call centre. We're primarily an office-based environment. So just sitting there all day, every day, waiting for the phone to ring and actioning it is a surefire way to end up losing track of your portfolio. Having done that, there is pressure to answer the phone. There is pressure to always be there. I've said to most of my property managers, if you need time off the phone to deal with some major works notices or deal with an insurance claim, it's like anything, it's a tool. So say to your manager or say to your supervisor, I need a couple of hours off the phone this afternoon to deal with something that needs to be dealt with. They're not going to say no. As long as you've got some coverage, you need to just give yourself that proactive time to be able to deal with that. Otherwise, you're going to be in the middle of something really important. The phone's going to ring, you're going to lose focus, and you're going to have to start all over again. Site visits and meetings. Again, it's really important that you keep booking in your site visits and your meetings. Bit of a moot point at the moment, I appreciate that, but obviously this won't last forever. And especially when this is all lifted, we're all going to have backlogs of AGMs. I know I've got a shopping list long of AGMs that I've got to hold. Especially half of them won't even do Zoom. So it's really important that you keep self-organized, and then from next year, hopefully when all of this coronavirus has subsided, make sure you keep booking your site visits in and your client meetings. What you don't want is in 9 months' time, you see the client and it goes, well, I haven't heard from you for the last 9 months. I thought we were going to have a meeting. Saying, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Ah, yeah. Doesn't make you look good. So you should stay in control of that. You should be the one suggesting the meeting, suggesting the site visits. If they don't want to do it, fine, but at least you're the one taking control of that. And to-do lists and software. Wow. The best thing I ever found in block management was an online task management system called Wunderlist, which has now been swallowed up by Microsoft To Do. Organizing your day, organizing your list is so good. If you're really good at it, you can come in, open up your what am I doing today button on Microsoft To Do, and your entire day's there. So you just do achieve, tick, achieve, tick. You can have cyclical tasks. Like every Monday I have to do this. It means the discipline that you need to apply to yourself. You don't have to apply so much because it's already structured there. So don't always keep everything in your head. Don't try and remember everything. There are tools there to help you stay organized. Successful email management. Having had computers since I was 8, and I've done probably, so everything ins and outs of a computer, I hate email. It's one of those things, it's unfortunately, it's a necessity in an office these days, but it's a bane of my life. It's a bane of most people's lives. One thing I will say, I've put it in bold, you control your email. It does not control you. You are the one that deals with your inbox. You don't have to be a slave to what comes in. And we've all got those clients that are keyboard warriors. You've got, you can come into 5 emails from the same block about something, and there's the tendency to want to respond there and then. Don't. It's a considered response, just like everything else. So prioritizing your emails. You've had emails that have come in. It might be important to them, but it's not important to you. So prioritize it. Where does it fit in? Stick it in, flag it for another day. I know with Microsoft To Do, if you flag something in your email, it can talk to the to-do list function, so you can work out and structure your day a bit better that way. Actioning and response times. You've got to manage expectations from your clients, leaseholders and residents. We've all had that where we sent an email into a company and you've not had a response for 3 days. You phone them up and you go, well, I sent an email, I haven't had a response. And they go, well, I'm dealing with it. And then you go, well, I didn't know that. The same applies to your email inbox. If it's not something that needs to be done there and then, or it takes a bit of time, just acknowledge it. Thank you very much. We're looking into it. And I guarantee you that will pay dividends because they will get off your back. Some people, they just want a response. They just want to know you're on it, and that's fine. But to hear nothing, they will email again and they will call again. And suddenly you've doubled your workload on that one. Organization. I'm a bit OCD with my email, I must admit. I've got subfolders for every property. I've got subfolders for clients. But it does mean that whenever I have an issue, I need to find an email. I haven't got to sift through about 10,000 emails in an inbox because I'm not organized enough. So if you get a chance, try and organize your email folders. It will make retrieval of information, especially historical information, so much easier. Email anxiety. Don't get anxious over emails, whether it's Sunday night at 9 o'clock thinking, oh my God, how many emails are going to come in? Or I've been off for a week. Oh my God, it is just an email. It's not going to bite you or anything. It's just a message. I've said to my staff, I said, you can be doing some major works, you could be doing some financial updates, and at the bottom of your screen, you see your Outlook label, and then there's a little red 1, then it becomes 2, then 3, then 4, and you're sort of staring at it, you kind of work, then your eyes flick to it and flick to it. That's email anxiety. And unfortunately, that's where self-discipline comes in. Just because it keeps pinging up and up and up and up doesn't mean you suddenly drop what you're doing. Oh my God, I've got loads of emails. You just have to be organized. When you set yourself your time to go to your emails, don't just respond to an email when it comes in. Scheduling emails, the best tool that I've ever found is forward dating sent emails. So if you've got something that's come in an evening and you want to do a bit of work at night, or you want to respond very quickly, forward date your responses. If you start responding in the evening, your clients will get used to it. If you start responding within about 10 minutes of them emailing you, they will get used to it. And suddenly, if you're really busy and you can't respond so quickly, they'll go, well, hang on a minute, you responded really quickly before, why not now? So just be clever with your email responses. Schedule the times when they're to go out to stop creating a problem for yourself. You don't want to create a rod for your own back by being so efficient, and then suddenly you're really busy and you can't respond. They're not going to understand that you're suddenly busy. They're just going to go, well, hang on a minute, they don't like me anymore. Have I done something wrong? Or fine, they obviously don't like us anymore as managing agents, whatever. So just make sure you're just a bit clever with that. And allocating time. Don't just sit on your emails all day, all night. Give yourself an hour in the morning, give yourself an hour at lunchtime, give yourself an hour, before you go to process emails. It's not, you don't sit by your letterbox all day waiting for post to be dropped through the letterbox. The same doesn't apply to your email. Don't let it control you. If it's really important and you need to respond to it, they're going to likely call you. Someone's not going to email and go, oh, just a quick email. Dear sir, hope you're well. My building's on fire. They're not going to do that. They're going to phone you. So emails are just another process that you have to control. Client relationships is something that it's a proactive thing, and it's often neglected by property managers that are under stress or have got a lot on their plate. But it's the most common thing to go wrong, but it's the most easiest thing to get right. Keeping communication to your leaseholders, your residents, your clients, your freeholders. You should be the one in control of your communication. You should be updating them what's going on. Even if there's nothing to be updated, just send your directors a message, 1 month. Oh, I haven't heard from you for a while. Hope you're all okay. We're still progressing with our stuff over here. Hopefully we'll catch up at the next AGM. And I can tell you now that will pay off so much because you're keeping that relationship going. And they won't then email you and go, so-and-so Block Management Limited, are you still alive? Are you still there? Are you still managing our block? So if you are in control of the communication flow to them, then they won't need to then come to you. Portals and updates. If you have a portal, if you have a blog, if you have a company process where you disseminate information, keep it updated. I've seen it time and time again where management companies have these portals, they have this way of broadcasting information. They've either don't use it or they've used it really well and then suddenly it stops. It actually looks worse if you just didn't have it to start with. So if you do have these, just make sure they're updated. But that's where the to-do list comes in. Be disciplined, give yourself that time in the week to just make those updates or just update that portal or do that broadcast to that site. Again, you then stay in control of the communication. Financial maintenance updates, let them know what's going on. I'll touch base a little bit about the finances a bit later on, but you're the one that needs to know what's going on with the money and the maintenance. Let them know, let your residents know, oh, the major works project's running over a little bit, just thought we'd let you know, or there's going to be an upcoming so-and-so in the gardens, or some tree works are happening, we're just letting you know. Unfortunately, cash flow is a bit tight at the moment, so we're just having to pause this bit of routine maintenance we were going to do, because you're then controlling the information. They don't then have to harass you for it. Audits and reviews, you should be reviewing your relationship with your blocks on a regular basis. How are things going? What's working? What's not working? Do you think the relationship's working? Safeguarding, even more important now. We've got to make sure that the safeguarding is a consideration. It's not our job. We're not the local authority. We're not social housing, but it's just something to bear in mind at the moment. Controlling information. All of this is about making sure that you retain that control of information flow and you're sending it to them. As customers with other companies, we've had it before where we've had to be the one to chase information, and then you start questioning your relationship with them. Am I a valued customer if I have to be the one to constantly chase things? But if you're sat there doing your emails all the time, you're answering the phone all the time, you don't give yourself time to be proactive, how are you ever going to succeed at being proactive? Portfolio management. This is something that should be a recurring checklist in your mind at all times throughout the day, every day. You should be making time to go through your insurances, your claims, when was the last reinstatement valuation done? Right, we need to do this. I appreciate you might have departments for this, so then liaise with the department instead of doing it yourself, but just make sure you have that mental checklist. How are any claims going on at the moment? What you don't want to do is in 3 months' time, you've suddenly got £100,000 claim payout, which is going to affect your renewal. And the client says, well, hang on a minute, what's happening there? You go, oh, I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. No, there's a department for that. They're not going to care because you're the property manager. Contractors and tendering, make sure you keep reviewing your contractors, keep looking at your tendering. To just leave the same cleaner or gardener there for 5+ years, unfortunately, you're going to start boarding on the Section 19 reasonableness test. Are you ensuring value for money for your leaseholders and residents? So you should always be thinking, oh, is that the best price? We haven't tendered for a couple of years. We probably really should do. But that's great because if you're taking initiative to tender something and you tell the client will instantly know, they've got our best interests at heart. I like these people, we're keeping them. Budget versus expenditure. You should constantly know where you're overrunning, where you're under budgeting. If you don't know your cash flow, you're going to be in trouble. You'll run short. You have to go tail between your legs to the client the final month of the current financial year and go, yeah, we run out of money, we can't pay anyone. And they're going to go, well, when did this happen? Or about 3 months ago, I probably should have told you. And then instantly they question the relationship. Auditing leases, you should be spending time going through leases at your sites. What's pet's permission? Is the financial year end correct? Are there permissions for this? What's happening with this? So you should be making time to go through your leases. You don't want to have a situation where you go, oh, we allow pets. Good question, I don't know. You should know the answers to those ones. Fire safety, have your logbooks been completed and your inspections? Has the most recent smoke vent test been completed? Have you got the invoices for the last 6 months testing? No, well, oh my God. So you should be going through all of your fire safety and just constantly looking at it. You don't necessarily have to do anything, but it's good to have something there that you can, like a compliance platform or spreadsheets that you go through with all your blocks and go, right, has this been done? Has this been done? Great, fantastic. Because if it's not been done and something happens as a property manager, it falls on you. Accounts, making sure you know what your cash flow situation is. Again, we'll touch on a bit of finances a bit later on, but understanding where your block is financially will impact on routine maintenance, cleaners, gardeners, all sorts of things. So you need to know what's going on at your site's accounts. You should know the back of a duck's bottom and what's going on with your financial cash flow. Because if there's ever a problem with cash, you're the one that needs to communicate it to the client. And they'll expect you as a property manager to manage the property. And all of these things on the portfolio management, that encompasses property management. Debt recovery is the easiest thing to explain why you're short on cash. You might need to spend £1,000 on a general repairs. The budget's got the money in there, but you don't physically have it. So the client's going to go, well, why can't you spend it? We haven't got it, but we haven't spent anything on this budget item. So you need to make sure you know who your debtors are at your sites. You don't need to have an exact spreadsheet because I'm sure you'll have software to do it, but speak to your accounts department, speak to who your debt recovery people are. Why is this person not paid? What's going on? Are there any time scales for recovery? Because without knowing you've got, say, £10,000 short on your financial cash flow for the year, how have you got any hope of doing any repairs? Essentially, you're going to be £10,000 short in the current year. So you're going to think, oh, I'm going to have to say to the client, we have to stop the cleaners, we have to stop the gardeners, can't pay for the insurance. So start thinking about those problems now, communicating it to the client. It's not your fault these people aren't paying, so you don't have to hide behind it. So unfortunately, these people haven't paid. It's going to cause a financial issue. Let's try and deal with this now, Mr. Freeholder or Mrs. RMC Director. You should be having those conversations. And maintenance repairs. Follow up on those quotes. Find out if that repair's been done. Just because you haven't had the invoice doesn't mean it's not been done. Or if you haven't had the invoice, has the work even been done? So you need to be making sure you stay in control of that. Proactive planning. This is something that gets missed an awful lot, and having worked in small to medium sized block management companies before I started my own, it's so easy to just overlook it. You know, you've got a month before your financial year end. Oh, I should be doing my budgets. Oh my God, I've got a month to draft it, agree it, and send it out. And in the meantime, I'm going to run short the week before Christmas, for example. Reserve allocations and cash flow. Where are you in your current financial year, and where are you going to be in 9 months' time? Future major works. You know, one thing that the great Jeff Platt taught me is Section 20 covers how you spend the money. Your lease governs how you collect the money. Plan your major works income now, so that when you've got the section notice 2 is finished, you've got the money there ready to go, and ring fence it. Most softwares like Cube or Resident, they can allow you to have a virtual pot, ring fence it, plan to have that money put aside. If you know you've got a £20,000 expenditure to replace the lifts and you've got the money in the account, put it somewhere else so it can't be spent, so it doesn't accidentally get used up and you have to have that awkward conversation with your client. So just be a bit clever with your proactive financial planning. Think outside the box, right? I'm going to need this amount of money at this point. What can I do to ensure that that happens in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, even 2 years' time? You know, make those decisions now and keep it going. Routine contract tendering. Again, as we touched on it, you need to make sure that you're constantly looking at your contracts, making sure you're going out, making sure you're tendering them. Client meetings. Make sure you, as I said, make sure you're managing their expectations. Keep those client meetings being booked in. Keep those site visits happening. People like to see their property manager. They like to be able to know you're there, and they want to have these directors meetings, these AGMs. I appreciate at the moment it's very, very, very difficult, and the Zoom platform, as we are experiencing, is a godsend. If this lockdown had happened 10 years ago, I genuinely don't know how we would have coped as an industry. So we're very fortunate that we have this now. So there's nothing stopping you having Zoom AGMs. I had 2 last week and I've got 2 next week, and I've got some board meeting Zoom meetings. So use it. Even if they can't see you face to face, they can see your face, so it'll do. And your diary, manage your diary, block out time, you know, we've got shared calendars in our office on Outlook, so we all know what's going on, so we can plan our day around it. And it's that planning, that discipline, that will mean in 6 months' time, 9 months' time, 12 months' time, you're not going to come up with a problem. And daily finances. This is probably the most important one, because everything that we do as a property manager hinges on the finances. If you haven't got any money to do anything, it doesn't matter what your plans are for how big or small a site, you can't fund it. As we know, as the code says, if you don't have the physical cash in your account, you are not allowed to commit to spend it. And it's that a lot of property managers that I've met, both experienced and new, don't understand the ramifications of that. If you've got a £10,000 quote you need to instruct, if you've not got £10,000 sat in cash in your account now, you're in trouble, because if something happens and you can't fund it, you've committed that money. And I know Armour and Ricks will come down on you should there ever be a dispute. So it's important to know that your cash flow is so important to enable you to do your job. Without any cash, you're going to look very silly when you speak to your client about why you've not been able to do anything. Instructing maintenance, you know, you can't instruct a contractor for a job for £500 if you've got £2.50 in your account. You're going to have to go back to your client and say, well, we can't do this really urgent roof repair because there's no money. They're going to go, well, why is there no money? Oh, because so-and-so didn't pay their arrears and we're chasing them at the moment. Oh, well, we didn't know that. If we'd known that, we would have potentially told you there's a reason why that person's in debt. Or if you'd overspent on the insurance, for example, the renewal's much higher than you had in the budget. You know, the client's not been made aware of this. So suddenly you've got this emergency roof repair that you can't fund and you're scrabbling around for loose change. And then suddenly they're going to start doubting your ability to manage the site because you've not communicated with them. And it goes back to just making sure that you take control of the communication. You should find the problems before your client finds out about them. You should be the one knowing the ins and outs of your finances to avoid a problem at the end of the financial year. Budgeting items and deficit issues. I've lost track of the amount of time I've seen property managers and junior property managers that, you know, month 11, they've run out of money. Well, of course they run out of money because the insurance renewal in month 2 was £1,000 over budget. Has anyone actually bothered to actually work out, well, where are we going to get this extra £1,000 from? Speak to the client, speak to the freeholder. Is there an option to call a levy in the lease? Because you waited to the last minute because you didn't find out, you've now got to explain to everyone why you now can't do that issue, when if you were a little bit more disciplined, you would have found that out. And again, the arrears impacts. Arrears impacts on everything you do. So as a property manager, you need to understand what it is you've got at your site. You know, is there a reason why people aren't paying? Are they disputing some major works? How short are you? You know, is the freeholder in a position to help you out financially until the arrears are recovered? Updating the client with your arrears list is important, because they need to know that you're on the case. If you don't know what your arrears are, you're going to have a problem. So all of this comes down to discipline. And it sounds like I'm being a bit lecturing. I'm not, because I've made most of these mistakes over the years as I was growing and maturing as a block manager. So being proactive and managing your day will stop your finances running out of control. It will stop your contractors getting lazy and not giving you the best value. It will mean you can keep your relationships with your clients strong. It keeps you as a property manager in control of the communication, in control of everything. And especially with what's happening in our industry, that's the most important thing. So just stay in control, be proactive, be disciplined, and manage your day. And don't be afraid to park things in their priority order, and don't be a slave to email. And yeah, just don't be a slave to email. If I can take one thing away from this, I hate it. Don't let your email control your day. There we go. So that's imparted my knowledge for the afternoon. So do we have any questions?
We do. Actually, we have some questions for you, Benjamin. Thank you so much for that. That was really interesting. And I think quite often leaseholders don't appreciate how much property managers are responsible for and how many balls they've got to juggle. And I think you gave a really good representation of that. So one of our questions is, during lockdown, how can you maintain working remotely? Any tips for that?
I think it comes down to one word: discipline. Especially now where people are going to be working without managers around, without colleagues, without departments that are giving you that nudge, that advice. You even more so have to remain in control of your portfolio. The portfolio list that I gave, which is to do with how you should be managing your portfolio. Print that off, stick it next to your monitor on a bit of sellotape, and just have that as a running checklist every day. How am I doing with da-da-da-da-da? Because no one is going to boss you around. You're in control of your portfolio. So it's important that where there's no one there to look out for you or watch you getting stressed, you just have to have that mental checklist.
Okay. Next question. How do you manage clients who bombard you with aggressive emails or lots and lots of emails? I'm sure you get that a lot.
Yeah, we do. We've all got those clients that send you about 4 or 5 emails on a Sunday night expecting an answer by 10 o'clock the next morning. You have to just manage your expectations as best as you can, and you don't be afraid to say no. If they're being unreasonable, it doesn't mean you then have to neglect other clients to then pander to whatever needs that they have. So sometimes you just have to say, look, unfortunately, thank you very much for emails. We will be looking into this. We will come back to you as soon as we can. Thank you very much. And if they phone or harass anymore, you just have to be, again, disciplined and just zero it out, because otherwise you've got that block of 4 that's constant noise in your ear, constant aggro, emails, phone calls. In the meantime, you've neglected that block of 50 that doesn't really make any noise. And suddenly the client's thinking, well, they don't seem to be paying much attention. And you say, well, I would have done if I didn't have to keep dealing with this block of 4. So you just need to make sure you're a bit more disciplined and how you can say no politely and with a bit of discretion.
So as the owner of the business, we've got a question: is how have you personally managed your staff whilst away from the office in the pandemic? How have you managed that?
It's been, well, funny enough, literally as of this morning, I booted all my staff back home again. So Muggins here is stuck at the office all day now, but it works on a bit of trust basis, but it's communication. We've got laptops, we've all got a VoIP phone. So we've basically said every morning at 9:20, we have a Teams chat. I want to see everyone's face. We have a chat about how their emails are looking, how their portfolio is looking. It also, it's a way of checking in to see how they're doing. How was your evening? How's your morning? Because people are going to lose that social contact. I don't tend to see it as a trust thing, because I wouldn't employ staff I didn't trust, but it's more just perhaps retaining a bit of focus. So just reminding people of what they need to achieve this week. How are we going on with this? Just giving them a couple of bullet points of things that we need to be working on, and letting them get on and do it. Because what I don't want to do is micromanage, because there's a tendency for inexperienced owners of businesses and managers to want to micromanage. Right, have you done this an hour later? Has this been done yet? Because you can't see them do it. You might be concerned that they might not be doing it, but you have to just trust that they are, and manage them as a person and give them the tools to be able to do their job, and just check in now and again that they are completing those tasks.
Brilliant. And I've got a final question. Are there any software systems that you would recommend for smaller businesses, or any software you think is really useful?
Oh, good question. I'm not being paid to make any recommendations. It's just based on experience.
I can guarantee that isn't the case.
To be honest with you, it depends on your scale. There's lots of portal-based softwares for small to medium. So you've got Resident, which is a very straightforward system of just maintaining your cash flow, your works orders, bank fees, etc. I know you've got Blockman, you've got Blocks Online. We use Resident at the moment for some of our smaller portfolio. You know, for larger portfolios and bigger stuff, I know Cube is probably the most popular one, followed by Propman. I think it just depends what you want out of your software. You can get all sorts of plugins. I know Fixflow, they have a full works order process backend, so you can use that for all of your your contractor and invoice management, for example. But yeah, I know obviously with the most expensive softwares like Cube and Popman, they are a bit pricey, but there's a reason why they are what they are. So I think it just depends on what you want out of your software. But I'm more than happy to take an email or a phone call off anyone if they want to just have a chat, because I'm quite prop tech heavy. I've used nearly all the systems, and I know what's the good points, what's the bad points. So if you want to just say, look, my business wants to accomplish this, what do you think is a good starting point? More than happy to have a chat with anyone about it.
Oh, that's excellent. That's really kind. I've got another question. So dealing with renters, flat owners often refer to their tenant for access, for example, a leak or something. We say that we deal with the flat owner or the agent only, not to the renter. Is this good practice, or is there another way to deal with it without them having renters contacting us regarding other issues they have?
I mean, strictly speaking, it is correct. I mean, our contractual relationship is with the owner of the flat. How they then deal with the tenure on the subletting is, strictly speaking, none of our problem. So we could insist that the owner of the flat or the letting agents is our point of contact. For ease of my life, I don't mind taking contact from tenants. If for arranging access to inspected leak or something, I will work with them. Equally, if they give me grief or give me a problem, I will turn around immediately and say, we won't deal with you, we'll deal with the letting agent. So I think it's a case by case basis. I mean, very recently we had a situation at a site where we've been dealing with this tenant for access to do the roof leak, and they turned around and got quite nasty. And we then said, right, that's it, no more. Told the landlord of that flat, not dealing with it anymore, we're going to go to you or the letting agents. So by going to the letting agents and the owner to start with, you are going to create more work, because they then have to go and find out, and then they'll tell the owner, then they'll tell you. So I think you try and work with the tenants if you can, but just be prepared that if they give you any grief or aren't compliant, you just have to go back to the landlord. So don't be afraid to say no to the tenant if they're being unreasonable.
Okay, so I've got another question. How will you be dealing with the fire safety bill, i.e. managing safety in the high-rise blocks?
Well, funny enough, it's actually coming into our December budgets at the moment. So we're looking at, there's going to be fire door inspections coming in next year, but we don't know the frequency. Is it going to be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? We don't know. So we're looking at actually putting in money to the budgets for these items now on an educated guess, speaking with our fire risk assessors, how much it's likely to be to inspect a fire door. We're also looking at things like, well, are we going to be having to put lockable fire cabinet document safes on site with all sorts of golden thread information that we need to now provide? So we're taking those steps now and putting them in the budget, so we don't end up middle of next year, we suddenly have to find all this money to do this work, because we've already put some in the budget. But we're letting our clients know now, all of them, what the legislative environment is likely to be next year and the potential impact it will have on their costs. But as we all know, until the bill's actually passed, anything could happen. But we're just warning our clients now that costs will go up because there's additional compliance layers. And just take into account now for your December budgets, there's nothing stopping you starting to put money aside for that and have those conversations now, rather than, you know, for example, it starts on the 1st of August next year and your budget's in December and you've got no money left. Have them now. There's nothing stopping you saying the government haven't made a decision yet, but it's likely to happen.
Okay. What is the most important thing for a young property manager to know who is fairly new to the industry?
Be organised. If you're very organised as a person, you will go very far. I come from the soft skills background. I've not been a chartered surveyor. I've not done degree qualifications in surveying. I came from the customer services background and working in offices and working with systems. So I've been a very organised person. The technical side of stuff you can learn, you can teach yourself, but being organised, if you're not organised, all of that means nothing. If you can't manage your day properly, it doesn't matter how much legal or technical information you have. If you can't get back to people or respond to emails or answer phone calls or deal with your portfolio, it's irrelevant. So make decisions now on how you deal with your emails, how you deal with phone calls, how you manage your blocks, and give yourself your way of doing things. And then all you've got to do then is just expand on that as your portfolio grows. So get the foundations right now.
Okay. Is there such a thing as a limit on how much to service charge to increase in the lease?
Well, just generally speaking, there isn't really a limit on, I mean, technically speaking, your service charge, you could ask for £1 million from each flat if you wanted to. It's when you come to spend it, that's your problem. We've had major works where we've had to ask for loads of money up front for a tender price that we don't know yet, because you can't technically ask for, you don't know what it's going to be until you've done the tender exercise. But if yours is a December year end and you can't start the major works until the consultation until, I'd say, April, you're going to just have to make a stab at it. And inevitably you're going to be out, whether you're too much or not enough. But you can ask for whatever you need to ask for to get the job done, as long as you can explain to your residents, explain to your owners, or get your directors and freeholders on board. There's nothing stopping you asking for what you need to, as long as you've got the backup of your client. It's only when you come to spend it, that's when you need to start having these considerations. Worst comes to the worst, you don't spend it, it forms part of the surplus. And if your lease says you have to return it, you return it. So that money's, that, for example, £1 million from each flat is going to sit there, but it's still their money until it's spent.
Okay. I've got another one. In a block of 6 flats, all leaseholders are directors of the freehold company, where there are ongoing disputes between leaseholders. Should there be one point of contact, and how is that organised? Or should a chairperson be voted in and everything done on a voting ballot? If a vote, 50-50 vote, how would this work?
We've had quite a few sites like that. It is very difficult to manage because you end up having 6 clients instead of 1, and it means communication is very, very difficult. We've gone back and we said, right, we want nominate one of you to do the point of contact. Unfortunately, even then, half of them then squabble about who's the point of contact. I should do it. No, you should do it, so on. So what we ended up doing is we said, right, whenever their decision needs to be made, we will let you all know and we will take the majority vote. It is as simple as that. If it's 50-50, we then have said that we'll then make the casting vote as ourselves on our experience. So if 3 or 4 are against and we believe it needs to be done, we will instruct it, because we still have a duty to keep the building in good repair. It's just very, very difficult. 90% of what we do is people, 10% managing the building. And I don't really think we should be called property manager. I think we should be called people managers, because that's most of our day. So no, I understand we've got lots of sites where it's the politics takes over. But you just need to be very upfront with them and say, look, if you're not prepared to appoint a representative, we're not going to have 6 individual discussions. We'll tell you what needs to be decided and you vote. If you don't vote, fine. If as a result of you not voting, the resolution's carried or the instruction gets done, tough. That's how it goes.
And I've got a final question. I think I might know the answer to this one. Is it possible to do your job working 9 to 5?
Oh, my specific job, no, to be honest with you. But I'm a bit of a sucker for punishment. I like that, doing the evenings and weekends. But a property manager should be able to finish at 5 o'clock, happily, satisfactory, having done their job. There is nothing forcing you to work late other than pre-arranged meetings, because if you're organised and your portfolio, portfolios can be as big as they like, but it's you to prioritise what needs to be done. You will always leave at 5 o'clock with God knows how many emails to do and files to sort out. But if you've prioritised it and you've been organised, you should be able to leave at 5 o'clock, go, well, I've accomplished a lot today, and great. If by the end of the week you're absolutely snowed under with emails and paperwork, then that's an organisational issue, not you as a property manager.
Someone sneaked in one more question here. How many blocks or units would you suggest that one property manager should be looking after?
Oh God.
Would that be about experience probably as well as just?
I think it depends what the client's like. If you've got loads of small blocks, your numbers are going to have to be limited, whereas you could do less blocks but higher numbers. I always tend to, it works on the amount of clients you have, not the amount of units you have. Not necessarily how many blocks you have even, because you've got a block of 50 or block 100 that are really quite straightforward. But then you've got loads of blocks of 4, 5, 6 and 7 that just give you constant grief. So, generally speaking, if I gun to my head, I reckon probably about 500 units is probably about right for a property manager. If you're organised and you can do it. Ideally, I wouldn't really want to see that made up of more than about 15 clients, if I could, if you really pushed it, because that's 15 budgets, that's 15 budget versus expenditures. So you've got to make sure that you don't give yourself so much to do that you don't then have the time for the proactive stuff, even if you try to schedule your day.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much, Benjamin, for taking the time out of your day to give us a really good insight into the day in the life of a property manager. Really useful, loads of tips and hints. And I would just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.